Hey, everybody, I'm Jed of the Jed TV Sports Network and WJOB Radio in Hammond, Indiana. I happen to own these fine institutions, and every once in a while I meet someone that has something to say, and then I convince them to A, write me a check, and then B, do a podcast. And this is one of them. It's being recorded live on radio and on TV, and you can get us on our WJOB 1230 YouTube channel, and you can watch it live. But it is September 4th at 10:30. If you got a question for Will Glaros, or me for that matter, you can call 219-845-1100. But most of you listen elsewhere, and you can get this podcast. All you got to type in Limwalkers into Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Or you can also go to our YouTube channel and get it in. It's best to do the YouTube channel anymore. He's Will Glaros. Will, thanks.
You bet, Jimmy. Good to be here. Boy, didn't we have a lot of fun on that last interview with Megan?
So on the last episode, I don't know what number this is, our producer and the head of the WJOB Podcast Network is Adriana Alvarez. She's in there in the fishbowl right now.
Woohoo!
We are on the campus of Purdue Northwest, where she's going to be graduating. She already got Chicago after her, by the way. I should have had Megan give her some pointers on how
Megan
to handle.
Would probably come back in.
Yeah, she would do that. You know, we had Zoe Mintz's daughter.
Yeah.
Give her some pointers, but we're very honored to have her as our podcast producer. How long that will last, we don't know. Let's go to her. We had Megan Glaros, longtime weather person at CBS in several markets and nationally. She has left that world to raise a family here in Northwest Indiana and to work with her dad, who's sitting right next to me. How impressed were you there, Adriana? I'm sorry. I asked her, and then she took it off.
Yeah,
she's
going
to do her homework. She's got PNW class homework that she's got to finish.
I've been multitasking with all of those. Yeah. But I was very impressed by her, and just also when she came in, she has a great glowing personality, and that's how you know, like, yes, that she was very good at her job when she was doing it. So that was one thing to take into account, and how she was saying that if you're able to do more than just present the news, present the weather, that was one thing that kind of stood out to me. So it was very interesting to have her on. I really enjoyed that episode that she did.
That part that
Yeah.
Megan was talking about was just echoes with we just Rob today is at Barstool, and Sonny's at Big Ten Network. So is Jimmy Mullaney, and they come, and I tell them, I go, you got to learn all the tech. You need to know everything I know. And that's where it starts. And then people just want to be on the air. Adriana has gone through some very boring, rigid looks at how do you operate the tech. And now she knows how to operate all of it. And she can go to her Chicago internship and get that done. Yeah. Megan came out said it. I didn't coach her to say that, but she said basically the same thing, which was really cool.
I remember when she got her first job in Parkersburg, West Virginia, and she lived in this little apartment. It was the first time she had ever lived on her own. She had terrible hours like she did at every other job. Well, not all of them, but it's like Chicago and so forth as far as the hours. But she always was searching for something to make herself better. And she had the energy. And like you said, I think, and I don't mean this in a braggadocious way, just blessed to have had two kids, she and her brother Matt, both who have these energized personalities that attract people and that influence people. When people hear them talk about whatever they're doing, the weather or the insurance, in Matt's case, they listen to them because they're authoritative. And the reason they're authoritative is because they're prepared and they know what they're doing.
We're talking about, basically what are some of the ways to live a full life and to live a focused life at times. I don't know. People ask me what Limwalker's all about, and I'm like, man, I don't really know. I think that if we just started the podcast that we would get to it. certainly we've gone through the limb walker's creed, but the concept of risk is very big in a lot of our conversations, and it's inherent in the picture that we have right behind us, which you need to describe for people who are only listening to it as an audio podcast.
It is a picture of me standing in, I have no idea what kind of tree it is, but it's a tree standing on one of the limbs, and on the picture it says, "One will never taste the fruit if one never ventures out on the limb." And I've decided I'm going to change my explanation of that it's not the tree trunk, it's the root. It is the base of the tree, and when you come out, you either go on the limb or you stay hugged to the root. And going out on the limb is risky, it's challenging, it's hard. But if you study, which I've done extensively, some of the most successful people in the world, and tried to adapt and use their tools and the things that they've made available to me, they're all willing to take that risk because they know it's not easy. They know that the thinner the air, the higher the reward. So the harder thing that they have to do, if they can accomplish it, the rewards are far greater. You just have to be willing to stick with it, because I can tell you from experience, it's not always wine and roses. It has times where things just blow up on you, and you got to deal with it. And there is no successful person who hasn't been through that.
I just did a podcast right before this. It's the Matt Hansen one. Every week we do the same rotation, and Matt and I talk about this at length about the difference between kind of a stable income and job and then being out there with your ass on the line all the time, at which you lived until you sold out, and he sold out. It got a nice number for his insurance, and also to keep the kids working inside of it. It's a great exit on a firm, and we talk about it. And Hanson's like, man, I've been a professor, and and it just seems like there's so much activity out in the adventure in being an entrepreneur. And, he's like, I just muse about it. He goes, I love being a professor, and this is what I do, and I'm good at it, and I love it. But, it's just, and then he asked me, well, what's it like? And I told him, actually, today, I go, well, it's actually odd that you bring that up, because I have been on my own from the day that they brought me up and Dr. Underwood spanked my naked ass, all right? And part of it is that I just am kind of wired that way, to accept a lot of risk, to not want to be in a rut or routine, and certainly not to have somebody tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And all of that kind of adds up to, I was an independent trader in this massive board of trade where a lot of the guys were corporate traders, and I just kind of built my own thing up. And then I went here, and it's like my own independent media. And then every once in a while, like I have all these unions on, and I started out as a construction laborer. That's what I was going to do, and then I went to college. And I go, man, these guys are retired. They had a nice job, and they went all the way through, and now they're golfing at Wicker.
Yeah.
And I'm like, could I have been happy with that kind of stability of putting in concrete and that kind of thing? And I realize that it looks good that they have the stable life, but in the end, you're about halfway out on the limb. I'm hanging from the very end of it. And to me, there needs to be a balance. Now, Hanson's close to the limb. I'm hanging from the side. You're in a very risky area, but there you could still scoot back if you had to.
Well, that's your choice. How much risk do you want to take, and how far does it take you? I mean, when I got into the insurance business, people are going, "You're what?" There were no jobs, so I just took it. And because of some events that occurred during those initial years where I paid some significant death claims, disability claims, I realized what I really did. And it was, to me, the most rewarding thing to be able to walk in a very dire situation and be able to give some positive light to the family who had just lost a loved one. I ended up gravitating into the benefits end of it, more of it, but that stuck with me all the way through, even the benefits, that people are paying for something, and I'll go out on the limb to the point that even if I have to pay for something that won't be paid for by the company, I'll do it because it's the right thing to do. And, I think the key is finding that you love to do, because if you do, it makes it so much easier, because you wake up in the morning and it's not like, oh God, you know what, I think I'll have a second and a third cup of coffee because I don't want to get in the car and I don't want to go to the office. Man, I wanted to be out the door and as fast as I could so I could do what I needed to do to add more business and help people. And I think, if I had to pick two things that are the most important, one would be having a focus on something you love. And number two, it's having the discipline to implement in hard and in easy times and to keep going, not to get lazy, because it is equally as easy to get lazy when things are going well and just go, wow, this is great. I think I'll take an extra week off, or I'll go here or go there. And it's not that you don't have that and you're not able to do it. You can do it. That's the freedom. I can do it if I want. But you don't take the bait full. You nibble at it a little bit, enjoy it, and then continue to do what you love to do. And that's the greatest part. If you love it, you're not going back to something you hate.
So you're boiling a lot of it down to love and discipline.
Yeah.
So we talk about the love of doing what you want, and we talk about risk and going out onto the limb. But we don't talk that much about the actual discipline. And I'm just wondering, when you talk about that discipline, to you, is it an inner discipline? Is it like, oh, I was a Marine for 6 years and now I'm out and I have this external discipline of people telling me what to do? I mean, what could you provide to, say, Adriana and say, well, you're going to go into this media career in a lot of different areas. You got a lot of opportunities, but no matter what you do, you need to carry 1, 2, 3 fundamentals of discipline with you. What would that be in your mind?
Well, I think for somebody just starting out, if you're going into a business or you're trying to find a business, find what you really think you want to do, or the concept that you want to provide to a customer group out there, and focus on it. The key is to do it. Anything you're going to do, whether or not it's physical activity or it's work, if you do it for 30 straight days and put your tail into it 100%, hard work, even though you don't want to do it. You don't want to read all this extra stuff that's boring stuff, but you got to have it to graduate. Just get it done. Get it done. Anything you do in 30 days, probably more physical on that side. Once you get through 30 days, it's become a habit. And once it's a habit, you'll do it. But the key is, if you love what you're doing on top of it, that's like an accelerant. It just lights you on fire. You go, wow, I got to meet some new people, do some new things. For me, I was blessed. I was blessed to have had the original influence of my grandfather, even though I didn't want to be in the insurance business. He was in it with Lincoln National Life, although it was called, I forget what it was called back in the 20s. But he was the #1 life insurance agent with Lincoln National Life for like 4 years, right through the Depression, because he loved what he did. It was helping people. Now, while I did not want to be in that business, I got into it, And I guess I found out what my grandfather really loved about it, and it was helping people. So finding what you love to do and self-discipline to do all the things that go with it, because it's not all collecting a check. It's, it's personal.
What do you mean personal?
Well, each person has to, it's personal. If you say to me, I want to be a pipe fitter or an electrician, which are noble professions. My father-in-law was an electrician with the group in Hammond,
697.
697. And his friend, oh God, what was his name? Andy, I can't remember Andy's name, but he was the business agent. But I'd see them go to work, and the things they did at City Service in those days over on Klein and up in the steel and everything, they loved what they did. Some people might say, they're just tradesmen. Bull. If they love what they do, they're providing a service just like you are as an attorney or as a banker or as an insurance guy. We're all doing things and contributing to the society in which we live. And that's the beauty of it, the opportunity to be part of this mesh of society. But for you yourself to be happy enough to be a cog in that wheel is to find something you truly enjoy doing, so you're not spending all your time complaining about it at coffee with the guys. The guys that are at the coffee shop are the ones talking about how crappy it is and how they don't want to do this and do that. I never went to coffee. If I did, it was with my boss, and that was it years and years ago, because I can't get anything done there. So I don't know. I'm just kind of babbling on, but excitedly, because I realize what a gift I was given by having had the influences around me too to kind of guide me on some of these things.
So, it's you talk about the trades, and I have, if you're listening somewhere else, I have the local streaming sports network. And ultimately, it is a kind of I never really tell this story, but when I was a senior in college and I had to write an honors thesis, and I'm like, oh gosh, it looks like I'm going to get out. I make it through college. I started out as a laborer, and here I am. And it turns out I got my degree in labor theory or organizational management or whatever they called it as part of a sociology degree. And I went and I wrote my thesis on how do you establish community in labor unions, because I feel like they're always fighting amongst each other and then kind of fighting inside each other. Like how do you bring them together? And here I am 40 years later having a chance to bring together 7 different unions, locals now, electricians being one of them. I just signed the oil workers, who are all the oil workers over at BP.
Yeah.
And then I just signed the plumbers union, Sal Espino and the plumbers out of Maryville. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. I didn't even realize it, but I'm kind of fulfilling a thesis I wrote 40 years ago. And it's
got to be cool.
And I didn't realize it till I was in a meeting about a week and a half ago with someone. I said, gosh, when we're doing this, all the trades are coming together and we're all getting behind high school sports on TV. And at that moment, I realized, I go, God, I wrote this thesis in 1985. So I don't think that it was conscious to me. It wasn't conscious, but I may have been drawn to all of this subconsciously or unconsciously toward an ultimate mission that I didn't even know I was doing.
I'm going to tell you something. Having done that 50 years ago or whatever it was.
40 years ago.
40 years ago. When you get something you really have a passion to deal with and it gets in here, it doesn't leave. It kind of waits for its time to mature in your life to do it. I mean, it is a way for people to dream about the future without living it yet. And ultimately, you'll get there. One day, I'll bring my little chart. I think you've got one here of the success. The idea that when you get a conscious thought, it goes into your brain to your subconscious, never leaves. And then your mind percolates on it over time until the right set of circumstances come together. And you decide to do something about it. And that's what's happening. That's just one thing. There may be 100 other things you've got there. I have to tell you, you amazed me the other day when we were talking. It has nothing to do with the topic except your creativity and the way I look at you as being a risk taker, and I admire you for it, is when you told me you go out to a golf course with a putter and one other club and play 18 holes in an hour or whatever the heck it is, running the entire course. Now, if that isn't the craziest, damnedest thing I've ever heard, and you got buddies that do it with you too.
It's one club. You learn to putt with your 7-iron. It's just one club and 2 balls, and you can play very quickly, and you don't have to do all the talking and all that. You're on your own. I might go out with somebody else. You know who does it with me and who has caught the bug? Because he's kind of like maybe like you and I are in the fact that we kind of want to keep moving and a little bit of solitude.
Yeah.
You know, I truly enjoy, especially as I get older, I realize, God, I'm like a solitary animal. I just want to kind of be alone a lot of time. So you just take the one stick, 2 balls, I call it. You can only there's all sorts of little rules that I've developed over the last 35 years of playing this. And Pete Corellis is now a disciple. He's a Jed Golf disciple. And he texted me the other day. He goes, it's a Sunday morning. He goes, for all these years I just get up and I go play golf. He goes, but it's open like between 7 and 8 where he plays. And he goes, I just go out with one stick and I go and I play the whole course. And then I come back and I have my coffee and I eat. And I just played 18 holes or 9. And so he's finding the same thing. But I appreciate the look at that creativity because, it's just something that I do. But I want to get back to one thing that you've mentioned in other podcasts, and that is the subconscious. I'm not a huge fan of the PMA movement.
Sure.
And, I'm maybe not a believer. Like if somebody came in and wanted to read my palm and give me something like that, I'm not really a believer, and they can tell that, right?
Yeah.
Well, you could tell I'm not a huge believer in the goal setting and the PMA stuff, but I agree with one part that you said. And you said, listen, if you are actively engaged in setting these positive mental images of what you want to get done, and you continue to think about it, it kicks into your subconscious. It's not like you made a list, like I need to get this done by I'm 30, this one time I'm 40, and you're working on it. But it's now in there, and if you continue to refresh and give more messages of where you want to go, your subconscious will take over and push you there.
Let me tell you, I've had something for years, and it's probably been more in the last 5 years, but years before. One of my joys in life is being able to try to help younger people understand paths they can take to make their life really successful. And yet I also see the trials and tribulations they go through. So being active with that in mind, you'd say, well, what do you do with that? Well, I don't know. Well, about a number of years ago, I became part of the Early Learning Partnership, which became part of Mental Health America. And I think I've talked about this on the air before. I see us doing all these things, coming up with solutions for mental health problems, but we're doing nothing to prepare kids to face those issues when they grow up. Even if it's really young kids. And so I've got something I've been thinking about for years, which is helping kids, and I'm now trying to find the pathway to take that mental health problem and make it a mental, what I call mental wealth problem. Not problem, opportunity. That young kids, anybody can be taught how to take the right tools and become successful in life. So when you face those battering rams that knock you down, they don't knock you down as far. You're able to go. So when you say, we talk about looking to the future or having an idea and it percolates in the brain, this one's been there, I can't tell you how long, but right now I've already begun to work on it. And I don't know how I'm going to get it accomplished because the school systems don't want to have any time. They don't have time for the kids to have time to learn how to be prepared. They've got all these rules and things they've developed that take up all the time.
To boil it down, then what you would like to work through ELP, Early Learning Partnership, and other, and I know that you have spoken to kids a lot. That's coming out of your subconscious, right?
Yep.
See, that's the part that I didn't get. And that's the part that made me realize that I now have a sports network that has brought 7 different trade unions together. I didn't think that was possible. And not only that, they're giving money to make it happen. But that was out of my subconscious from sitting in a dorm room 40 years ago.
Isn't that great?
But you're out of the subconscious is always wanting to. I mean, that's probably partly why we're doing this podcast. Is like, well, God, I've always had some things I wanted to say, and here it is, the opportunity. It made itself. So that would be the one thing that I have taken out of these episodes so far is that the subconscious, if you got to feed it, and what are you feeding it? What are you feeding your subconscious? And that is a tough question for many of us.
And I'll ask you a question again to see if you've done it. But have you read the thesis I gave you, As a Man Thinketh?
Yeah, a while ago.
Did you?
Yeah. And
it's I mean, if you read it,
that's what I'm talking about right now. Is As a Man Thinketh is how he basically follows, and I've always kind of rejected the kind of do-gooder motivational speakers.
Yeah.
And I'm not that wired that way, but I'm wired for the subconscious. So, but anyways, I read it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that really says it all. I mean, it what's the word, addresses everything that we're talking about. It is your mental set. If you go into something expecting failure, that's probably what you're going to get. If you go in expecting success, you still may not get success yet, but you'll at least put the effort and the time into doing it. But you have to have the right mental set, and sometimes that's battered by home life, by relationships, by disappointments and everything else. But like I said earlier, you've got to be able to stand back up again. Some of the most wealthy people in the world, if you look at people, I can't even, who's the guy, Warren Buffett, he really didn't start doing this stuff until he was like 50-some years old. Half of these guys that are millionaires, billionaires, didn't finally hit it till later, but they stuck with it. And I guess the question to ask them, is it because they loved what they were doing? And where did they come up with that idea originally? You just have to keep your mind active and open to opportunity and try to close it as best you can to the negative.
That's that's a whole podcast and several podcasts of close it to the negative.
Yeah.
Because that's so hard to do. It's especially hard right now in a world right now. Here we are recording in 2025. The pace of images and messages to all of our brains is something I started my show out 6 hours ago about like, man, how are you guys interpreting the world in a world that is filled with negative images on both Democrat, Republican, whatever it might be? And then, how do you guys interpret it?
Well, today when I was driving down for the podcast, I was listening to Kennedy being interviewed by the Senate. And to me, it is an absolute waste of time because the people that are for him talk about that for what they're doing with the CDC and everything. The ones that are for him are all positive pats on the back. The ones who are against him don't let him answer any of the questions. And they just do their comment. And I'm thinking, what a waste of time. I mean, let him answer the questions. If you're going to ask a question, let him answer them. That's what you're having this panel for. But you're right, and it's negative. It's just everybody battering rather than people coming together and working together to talk and discuss. And that's what America was built on, being able to do that. We're not right now.
Love for what you do, discipline, and subconscious kind of worked its way in there.
Yep.
That'll be the name of this podcast episode. This has been another Limb Walkers podcast with Will Glaros. I'm Jim Deedlow, owner of Jed TV Sports Network and of WJOB Radio here. We've been recording from Hammond, Indiana in 2025. Thanks a lot, Will.
You bet, Jimmy. Thank you.
It goes quick.
Thank you, audience, for listening.
It goes quick, doesn't it?
It does.
All right.
By the way,
wait, we're not done yet. I haven't signed off yet. You can't. He's taking off his headset. All right, it goes quick. No. Hey, until next time, we'll see you later.
Take care, everybody.